Hey, it's Nancy. Before we begin today, I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Crime Beat early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime. In the summer of 2015, a dramatic scene played out in the middle of a busy city street. A heavy-duty pickup truck driving erratically cut into traffic as a woman chased behind on foot. Countless witnesses watched in horror as the woman got in front of the truck and the confrontation turned deadly. If you're a longtime listener, this may sound familiar. I first shared details of what happened in this story in Season 2. But since then, I've tracked down new voices who have never spoken publicly about this case before.
You know that there is a story behind the story. There really is a story behind the story.
I'm Nancy Hixt, a senior crime reporter for Global News. Today, on Crime Beat, I'm sharing fresh insights and the latest developments on the story of Mariam Rashidi, including details about where the offender is now and an update on the victim's family. This is A Fatal Decision. For those listening to this story for the first time, on June 7th, 2015, 911 was flooded with calls. Witnesses reported an incident unfolding in the middle of a 6-lane thoroughfare known as 16th Avenue, which runs directly through the city of Calgary. This is also a stretch of the Trans-Canada Highway, which takes motorists across the country from the west coast to the east coast of Canada. Emmett Yang was on the road that day, enjoying the sunshine in his convertible.
This F-350 came booming out of the parking lot, and I had to swerve to miss him and pulled in front of him. He came out of the Home Depot parking lot fast, overshot the first lane, and tried to pull into the middle lane right away. And at that time, a woman was screaming as she was chasing the truck.
Emmett said everything happened very quickly, and he remembers hearing another woman yelling as well.
There was a very distinct voice, and I remember seeing her scream, get down, get off the truck, you're going to get hurt." And she repeated similar words at least 3 times, screaming them.
That second woman was Angela Reese. She had been watering plants at the nearby Home Depot.
I just saw this big truck drive in a pretty aggressive manner out onto 16th Avenue, facing west. And then I saw this woman running behind, but he did stop before he got onto the roadway, so I was able to get his license number. And then once he turned out, I could see a woman running. She went right out onto the roadway without stopping, without looking. She just ran out and she pounded on the passenger side window. The vehicle stopped almost in front of me. Everything kind of just closed in on that scenario.
Angela and Emmett were among the many witnesses who watched the woman chase the heavy-duty pickup truck, then stand directly in front of it.
As soon as she stepped onto the roadway, I said, "Come back here." I was really screaming at her. I said, "Come back here. I've got his license number." I said, but like screaming in a way that I really wanted to get her attention. She didn't look at me. I'm sure she didn't hear me. At this time, I knew that things were really not going to go well. She actually took a step onto the bumper and then hoisted herself up onto the hood of the truck. Now, this is a really big truck, and so she had to, I couldn't process the physicality of it all. I just really could not process what I was seeing.
I remember consciously thinking, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And it was happening very fast.
At that moment, the truck was stopped because the traffic light was red and there were other vehicles blocking any possible escape. But then, Emmett and Angela watched in horror as it turned green. I need to warn you, details of what happened are graphic and disturbing.
I saw the truck lurching trying to scare her off of the hood of the truck. It lurched 3-4 times.
I am screaming at this time, like I'm beyond screaming. And I turned as soon as he accelerated and moved because I knew that there was no positive outcome that could happen as a result of what I was witnessing.
She lost her footing. And this part is definitely in slow motion. I saw her go under the front wheel of the truck. And then milliseconds later, I saw her go under the dual wheels in the back, and the truck lurch up, and her on the ground, rolled over, eyes shut, and I don't know if it was blood coming out of her mouth, but to this day I can see it.
The driver sped away.
He darted right away. He hit the gas. Traffic had broke. He immediately went into the right lane and turned very fast onto 19th Street. I just thought, no. And I followed him. I don't know why. And I just hit the gas. I put my car sideways onto the turn onto 19th Street. And then he started picking up speed, and we were probably in excess of 120 kilometers an hour in a 50 zone. I remember grabbing my phone to try and take a picture of the license plate, and I just said, we're just going too fast. I can't do that. But I do recall that we were just passing people. He went into oncoming traffic. I pulled out slightly and crossed the yellow a little bit to keep up, and I don't know why. I just kept on following. We're driving erratically through this area. It's nice out. Kids are playing on the lawn, and I just thought, I'm going to hurt somebody. I'm going to hit a kid. And I was. I just backed off, and then the adrenaline started fading off, and I just realized, what am I doing? I'm a dad. I'm not Batman.
The heavy-duty pickup truck had disappeared from Emmett's view. Meanwhile, Angela was back at the scene at the Home Depot just off 16th Avenue. She knew that the woman was badly injured and watched as several people rushed to her aid while others called for help.
I kept thinking, don't move her, just leave her where it is till the ambulance gets here. I wasn't looking there because I didn't ever see her on the ground. I never looked. I just couldn't look. But I just kept yelling at people, and people were just, people were just in shock. I mean, it was a shocking situation.
EMS and police arrived within minutes. The woman, unconscious but breathing, was rushed to hospital.
The pedestrian had sustained life-threatening injuries, and we still didn't really know what occurred, other than the fact that she'd been run over by a vehicle and that the vehicle had fled the scene.
That's Staff Sergeant Colin Foster. He's recently retired from the Calgary Police Service, but in 2015, he was in charge of the Calgary Police Collision Reconstruction Team. This is the first time he's ever spoken to a journalist about this investigation.
With a hit and run, it's even more imperative for us to close the roadway, because another vehicle driving over there can pick up a piece of the suspect's vehicle, can be caught up in treads of another vehicle's tires or whatever it may be. So we need to close that scene down as soon as we can so we're not losing evidence. The immediate area is fairly commercial. There's petrol stations there, or gas stations, restaurants, fast food places, and what have you. North Hill Mall is just to the south of the collision location. There's a fire hall very nearby. So it's a fairly busy area.
That meant there were countless witnesses to interview, as other officers canvassed businesses for CCTV and collision reconstructionists gathered evidence from the scene.
The marks that we saw, or that we identified, were consistent with an acceleration mark. It wasn't a braking mark. So this was a vehicle that the driver had stamped on the accelerator. The wheel started spinning before it started to move. And we had this very clear path of travel initially on the roadway. The initial information we had was that it was a large F350 type vehicle with dually wheels, so the side-by-side wheels on the back of the vehicle itself, and we had a plate for the vehicle. That vehicle came back as stolen. So it became even more imperative to try and find this vehicle as soon as possible. We can't do anything until we have the vehicle. So we're doing what we call a grid search, checking all the roads in the immediate vicinity, looking for this particular vehicle. The pedestrian was in hospital, under care in the intensive care unit. So again, I couldn't speak to her.
While the victim was clinging to life in hospital with skull and neck fractures, a bruised lung, and severe injuries to her legs, investigators discovered new evidence.
So we established fairly quickly that the pedestrian was Mariam Rashidi, who was an employee at the Centex gas station. Because we were able to get the manager to come down to the gas station itself, we were able to get hold of the CCTV footage fairly quickly. And that told us the story. It showed the truck coming into the gas station. It showed the passenger getting out of the vehicle, filling the vehicle up with gas, and then basically them leaving. We established that this had actually been a drive-off, theft of petrol from a nearby gas station, and it appeared that she was trying to stop them from fleeing the scene. I recall the video showing Mariam rushing out of the gas station, the actual office itself, running up to the vehicle and basically chasing it out of the gas station forecourt.
Surveillance cameras from the gas station then lost both the truck and Mariam Rashidi.
During the course of the theft of the petrol, they filled up with something like $113 worth of diesel fuel and basically drove off once they filled up.
Police believed she had been trying to stop a gas and dash.
Certainly when I spoke to her husband later, there was some sort of feeling that if the vehicle got away, her pay would be docked by the amount that actually went missing. This was completely untrue. Speaking to the manager, he goes, it's the cost of doing business. We get drive-offs.
As you might remember from my previous episode, this case became very high profile. There were calls for new legislation to force drivers to prepay for fuel before filling up. But those types of changes take time. And in this case, it took 3 years for a new law to come into effect. At the time of the incident, for investigators, the immediate focus was on identifying the suspect. Police released images of the truck, driver, and passenger to the media, and in just over 24 hours, there was a break in the case.
A member of the public actually contacted the police and said that a vehicle had been abandoned at the back of their house.
This is that big, huge puzzle piece that we need in any hit-and-run investigation. I ensured that the vehicle was forensically photographed at the scene where it was found with lots of detail, because once it starts to move, I may lose evidence from the vehicle.
After that initial inspection, the truck was towed for further examination by the forensic crime scenes investigators. Officers traced the heavy-duty pickup truck to a residence in Airdrie, about 30 kilometers from the Centex gas station, where it had been stolen about a week before the collision.
In this particular instance, tire marks were important. The actual tread pattern from the vehicle we photographed, and later when we went to see Miriam, we seized her clothing. We actually had the tread pattern from the tires on her clothing. So we had that extra piece that puts that vehicle there and being the one that ran her over. On top of that, we had a scuff mark on the bumper of the vehicle, which had, well, it wasn't a scuff mark, it's an imprint of her clothing actually on the bumper. And when we did the match up there, we were quite happy that this definitely was the vehicle that did the drive off and that Miriam had some sort of contact with which led to the collision itself.
Less than 24 hours after the stolen truck was recovered, the case took a devastating turn.
The victim of a hit and run at a gas station has now died. Mariam Rashidi passed away earlier this afternoon.
The sad thing is, this is over $113. A wife and a mother of a 6-year-old boy is dead over $113 in unpaid gas. That's a pretty harsh reality for this family who came to Canada just a few months ago to build a brighter future.
She was the best thing that I had. She was a kind mom. She was very responsible.
That was Ahmad Noorani Shalot, Mariam Rashidi's husband. The couple had been engineers in Iran. They had immigrated to Calgary and quickly landed jobs in the oil and gas industry. But a sudden downturn in the economy led to job cuts, and they were both left unemployed. It was a devastating blow to the couple, who were committed to providing a stable home for their 6-year-old son, Karosh. They had bills to pay, including rent and groceries. Mariam took a job at the gas station simply to make ends meet. The day she was run over, Sunday, June 7th, 2015, had only been her 4th shift.
Right now, I'm worried about of my son because he asked me, "Where is mom? Why my mom died? I don't know what should I tell him."
Ahmad found solace in knowing that Mariam's passing would give others a chance to live.
We decided to do body organ donation at the 3rd day that Mariam was in coma. And today I received a call from hospital and they told me that Mariam's organs was wonderful, was okay for doing donation. I'm glad about that. That 6 people can survive, and it's enough for me, and I think for Mariam it's enough for. Yeah, it makes me happy.
Mariam's death changed the direction of the investigation. The incident was now a fatality, which meant the driver could face murder charges as opposed to hit and run. Staff Sergeant Foster said the significant media attention spurred tips to Crime Stoppers, which helped identify both the driver and the passenger.
Yeah, we were able to identify Joshua Mitchell. As I recall, Mitchell was known to us, a petty criminal, essentially.
Mitchell's identity was corroborated by fingerprints found on a large McDonald's cup on the driver's side center console of the stolen Ford F-350 truck. Hours later, police got another important tip. They were told that Mitchell had been couch surfing and that he had ended up at a Northwest Calgary home. But when officers knocked on the door, he refused to come out. The situation became dangerous and unpredictable, and a standoff ensued. Negotiators, along with the TAC team and the K-9 unit, were brought in. After several tense hours, Mitchell finally came out and gave himself up. If you listen to the original episode, you'll remember that I shared Mitchell's emotionally charged interview with police, where parts of his confession came across as insensitive.
I kept reversing to go around and she kept jumping in front of the car.
Veteran homicide detective Ray Bangloy conducted the interview. And for the first time, he's sharing some behind-the-scenes insights into that conversation.
Making him feel comfortable in the interview is important. Him being able to trust me was another thing. So when asking him questions, you don't want him to hold back. What were his true feelings about it? What were his true thoughts about it? And he got pretty explicit.
At one point, she was jumping on the hood. What the hell are you thinking at this point? This bitch is nuts.
Mitchell reverses, and she ends up jumping onto the hood, trying to shake her off, and is trying to, get her to stop. He did say that he was contemplating using bear spray, but given the time frame and the traffic flow, he wasn't able to react. Instead, he just chose the way it was just taking off and hopefully she would fall off.
I don't know when the fuck she fell off.
She just kind of lets go. Is she screaming or anything, or is it hard to move?
I have no clue.
So where do you
It's a
get?
nicey truck.
So where do you guys go after that?
Get the fuck out of there.
Okay.
Fast.
That's ultimately the goal too, is just to try to find out what his mindset was. And in this case, I think we got to the truth on that he was just trying to get away, and that he was in a stolen vehicle and kind of just reacted, which he's done numerous times.
Well, some BMW was following us too.
That's right, yes. What color?
Black.
Black. Was there anybody else following you?
And some white car. So I hammered the gas. We were going 160 down the road.
It was a bit of an adrenaline rush. And as for his mindset, I think he was just happy he got away. And then it was only till afterwards that he heard in the news that she ended up dying is when I think they kind of panicked. But he brought up his family, that he had issues with his parents. He was kicked out a few times from home. He did bring up that he was a chef and had goals of being a chef. But it did seem like, that childhood really kind of scarred him. And I'm trying to get as much information from him and being able to use that with the interview, because obviously Miss Rashidi had a family and it was a very emotionally charged event.
At Detective Bangloy's prompting, Mitchell wrote a letter to Miriam's family apologizing.
He cried a few times and teared up.
But to Miriam's husband, they were just empty words on a page. He struggled without her, and not long after her death, Ahmad packed up his life in Calgary and moved to BC with his little boy, Karosh. Back in Calgary, the charges against Mitchell were upgraded to second-degree murder. Here again is Staff Sergeant Colin Foster.
In our office, we had the front page of The Sun, which showed Miriam and with the title, She Died for $113. It's there as a constant reminder for the team that I lead. That's why we do what we do. We can speak for the victims. We can speak for the family. We can answer the who, what, when, where, hopefully the why for the families that are involved in these type of incidents.
In April of 2017, nearly 2 years after Miriam was struck, Joshua Mitchell stood trial in front of a jury. Jonathan Hack prosecuted the case. He worked for Alberta Justice for over 30 years and has since obtained a PhD. He now teaches full-time at a law school overseas, but he remembers the case well.
The defense had offered a plea to manslaughter, but the Crown rejected it on the basis that there was a compelling argument that the requisite intent for murder was present. There couldn't really have been more evidence other than if the truck itself had a dash cam video recorder, because we had video of the crime being committed, the theft of the fuel and the truck being driven away. We had witnesses providing information as to what occurred on 16th Avenue and what Miriam Rashidi did. We had evidence from inside the truck as to what was being said and the mindset of Joshua Mitchell. And so we had everything that we needed, and therefore a very compelling case to put before the jury.
In court, one by one, witnesses, including Emmett Yang and Angela Reese, described the chaotic and devastating scene to jurors.
2 or 3 times he lurched, and then she lost her footing.
I just knew immediately that she was not gonna, it was just such a big vehicle. It was so big. It could only end one way, yeah.
Then, Mitchell's own confession was also played for the jury.
How many times is she on the hood and coming and
3 times.
3 times?
One time she jumped in and I jerked forward.
Defense conceded that Mitchell had stolen the Ford F-350.
He was very proud of having that particular stolen truck. It had a lot of power, and he spoke a lot about how powerful the truck was. And he certainly drove it that day in a way that suggested he knew how much power it had, which made his use of that vehicle as a weapon all the more aggravating.
He also admitted to the theft of $113 worth of fuel and the charge of hit and run. But defense insisted it was manslaughter, not murder. However, the prosecution told jurors Miriam's death was no accident and said Mitchell had the power of life and death over her, and he chose death.
But the jury had a very difficult decision. The jury could easily find that Joshua Mitchell, by driving the way he did, intended to cause bodily harm, knowing that death was a likely result, and was reckless as to whether or not death ensued, because he was clearly going to get her off the vehicle no matter what the consequences. Conversely, the jury also had a compelling argument that he wasn't really trying to hurt her. He just wanted her to get off the vehicle. And that's what they would have struggled with in the jury room. The Crown's theory of intent and the defense's theory that this was an unintentional event. And I think because he was still a young man and really looked like a young man in the prisoner's dock, that would have weighed heavily on the jury. He certainly wasn't a hardened criminal, nor did he look like a hardened criminal.
10.5 hours later, jurors came back in tears as the verdict was handed down. They did not see that 20-year-old Mitchell had the intent for murder. He was instead convicted of the lesser crime of manslaughter.
It's really hard when you're the one who has to make the decision. It's all very nice from the armchair to say, well, this is clear cut. I can't imagine why the jury had difficulty. But the jury just consists of 12 members of the community who don't know each other and don't know anything about this case. And we give them the facts and the law, and we tell them to decide it. And it's really hard. And those 12 people, in order to have convicted of manslaughter, they all had to agree. And so, though we can't talk to jurors, it's reasonable to assume that there would have been changes of opinion during that time till ultimately all 12 agreed on manslaughter.
Mitchell again apologized to Miriam's family and said if he could trade places with her, he would.
The court imposed a sentence of 11 years, consisting of 10 years for the manslaughter, concurrent sentences for the lesser offenses, and 1 year consecutive for the hit and run, and then a lifetime driving prohibition.
Mitchell appealed his sentence with the help of veteran defense lawyer Balfour Durr.
The Joshua Mitchell I dealt with was, a very calm individual, someone who was wanting to take responsibility, who did not seem like the person that he was in the interview with the police. And I think it's because of what was going on at the time. That the police interview is just after this happened, and he's in a bad spot in his own life, which is why this happened in the first place. And whether you called him young and cocky or whatever words you want to use to describe him, he mellowed significantly by the time I was dealing with him. And jail does that to a person, as does maturity. And it just seemed to me that he was likely going to be someone whose shadow would never darken a courthouse door again.
The Alberta Court of Appeal reduced Mitchell's driving prohibition from life to 10 years. But the impact of what happened to Miriam at the hands of Joshua Mitchell continues to reverberate. Emmett Yang told me he still thinks about Miriam when he drives on 16th Avenue past the Centex and the Home Depot, where he witnessed what happened on that fateful day.
I've had talks with my 11-year-old what I would have done differently that day. And it probably would have been, if you can go back in time, consciously knowing what was going to happen, I would have been in that store, looking at snacks. And then when she tried to chase him, I would have grabbed her arm and said, I'll just pay for it. It's okay. Just let it go.
Angela Reese told me she sympathized with the victim and her family in this case. However, as she sat in the courtroom, she found that her feelings towards Mitchell softened.
You know, that there is a story behind the story. There really is a story behind the story. And I think that it's important to hold space for both sides. I think that's really important, to be able to hold space for both, and that it's okay. I do feel compassion for both. That's true. I do. I feel compassion for both. But I found myself feeling compassion for the offender. And, you know, I do hope going forward that there's, you know, been some opportunity for growth and maybe for him to take a different direction. I really hope that in my heart. I really, really hope that. Yeah, sorry, it's really emotional.
Exactly 5 years after the fatal gas and dash, and just over 6 months after the first Crime Beat episode on this story, the Parole Board of Canada reviewed Mitchell's case to determine if he should be released on either day or full parole. Through their written decisions in June of 2020, I was able to gain further insight into what has transpired since the previous episode was released. The board described the crime and relayed that Mitchell had said he was sober that day. He said he had panicked when the victim jumped on the truck. He said once she fell off and he drove over her, he thought about stopping. But he said people at the scene were yelling at him, along with the passenger, so he panicked even more. The board noted that he initially blamed the victim for climbing on top of the stolen vehicle, but he now takes responsibility and said he realizes that it was his own actions that led to her death and that he expresses regret for his actions. During the hearing, Mitchell's institutional parole officer, who had been his supervisor since the onset of his incarceration, told board members that Mitchell has nerve damage, which makes him appear to have a grin on his face that can be off-putting at first. The officer spoke favorably about Mitchell and said he's been working hard and that she believes he would be successful going forward. Officials noted that as a child, Mitchell both witnessed and was the victim of family violence, and as a teenager, he was exposed to substance abuse and criminality. He attended school until grade 11 and then worked in warehouses and also as a cook. They said Mitchell has no history of substance abuse. Board members said their biggest area of concern is Mitchell's personal and emotional stability because he has a tendency to be impulsive and easily triggered and has difficulty managing emotions such as anger and frustration. Mitchell was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, when he was about 8 or 9 years old, and at the time of the offense, he was not on medication. They said while in prison, he takes medication and is stable, though they added that psychological and psychiatric treatment has also benefited him greatly. According to a summary from the parole board, Mitchell's serious criminal history began just 5 months before the gas and dash that killed Maryam Rashidi. In January of 2015, he stole a vehicle and drove at high speeds through the city. A month later, he aggressively passed a vehicle, then followed the driver home, where there was an angry confrontation, and Mitchell sprayed the victim in the face with bear mace. And then, when he tried to flee the area, he hit the victim's vehicle. Officials noted that following his arrest for the fatal hit and run, he needed to be put into protective custody. They said significant media attention led to the added precautions, but that once he was settled in prison following his conviction, there weren't any other issues. While incarcerated, in addition to counseling, he's upgraded his education and completed pre-employment courses. Parole board documents rate his accountability, motivation level, and reintegration potential as high, and he's been assessed as engaged in his correctional plan. He was granted day parole and mandated to live at a community-based residential facility, but denied full parole. 6 months later, in December of 2020, the board reviewed his progress. They said he had completed community programming with noted gains and said there were no issues or concerns with his behavior. In granting his full parole, the board provided a list of conditions to follow. That included staying away from negative associates with pro-criminal values, to take prescribed medication to maintain stability as he had taken during his incarceration, and to follow further psychological counseling. Following a review nearly a year later, in late 2021, the parole board said Mitchell continued to demonstrate effective problem-solving skills and the ability to control his emotions. A condition to continue with psychological counseling was removed, but other conditions remained in effect for the remainder of his time on parole. Mitchell's full warrant expired on October 26, 2025, so he is now a free man. During one of his reviews, he told the parole board that he's aware of the media attention the case has attracted and said all he can hope for is a fresh start. He added that he feels like he deserves a chance, given the work he put into bettering himself while in custody. It's a sentiment that his defense lawyer, Balfour Durr, agrees with.
Ultimately, rehabilitation of any offender is the greatest protection for society. If an accused is rehabilitated, he's not going to be a danger to anyone. He's not a danger to commit whatever offenses that we're worried about. And that's why rehabilitation is written into the criminal code as a consideration for a judge on every sentence. And it's why, in our system of justice, that we never want to lose sight of it. We can't keep people in jail forever. They're going to get out sooner or later. And it's far better that they get out on the right track to being a pro-social contributing member of society.
As I put together this episode, I had several long conversations with Karosh's stepmother. She's been through a lot. She married Ahmad about a year after Mariam was killed. And if you remember my original episode, a deadly car crash took him from her. She was also in that collision, along with Karosh, and was badly injured. She was in a coma for a short while and suffered multiple broken bones requiring several surgeries, so it's been a long road to recovery. Karosh suffered minor physical injuries, but losing his father after already losing his mother added a level of grief that seems incomprehensible for a child to endure. But together, they've healed and developed an unbreakable bond. She said now that he's a bit older, he looks at news coverage about his mother online. His stepmother was shocked to learn that Mitchell has already completed his sentence. She said to her, it felt like it was too soon, and feels that justice will never be served. More than 11 years have passed since Mariam was killed. Karosh was only 6 years old when she died, so his stepmother has been in his life for almost twice as long. Together, they've navigated new chapters and they've flourished. Karosh recently got his driver's license, which was an exciting milestone for them to celebrate. He's on the honor roll and at the top of his class, and next year he'll graduate and celebrate his 18th birthday. His stepmother is helping to fulfill the dream Mariam and Ahmad had always wanted for their son. I want to thank Karosh and his stepmother for helping to continue to share this story, and thank you to the witnesses and investigators who have provided their insight for this episode. And thank you for listening. Crime Beat is written and produced by me, Nancy Hixt, with senior producer Dila Velasquez. Audio editing and sound design is by Rob Johnston. Special thanks to photographer-editor Danny Lantella for his work on this episode. And thanks to Chris Bassett, the VP of Network Content, Production, and Distribution, and Editorial Standards for Global News. I would love to have you tell a friend about this podcast. There are 7 seasons of stories you can listen to and share. And please consider rating and reviewing Crime Beat on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. You can find me on Facebook at Nancy Hixt Crime Beat or on Instagram at nancy.hixt. Thanks again for listening. Please join me next time.